Yes, sir. So here on this slide, you can see our debt service schedule, all of our outstanding bonds. Some of these years you may be thinking, well, we didn't have a bond election. Well, there's some refinances along the way. And our total outstanding principal as of the end of this year will be $185 million. And this is our projected INS tax rate model. So just to show our growth in values in 2023, you see that 16% estimated growth. And then our projected INS tax rate is the second column from the end, the projected INS tax rate. So we're at 27 cents in 2022, 27 cents in 2023 with that 16% increase. Next year in 2024, say there was a 4% increase in values, the INS rate would drop to 0.2342. And I asked Victor also to run if it was an 8% increase in values, it would drop to 0.2262. So just to illustrate that if we did decide to access extra golden pennies, we could almost make up for that. You could almost say we're dropping the total tax rate by a cent if the INS rate drops 4 cents and we access 3 golden pennies, for instance. And that'll, of course, change depending on what our values do. This slide just shows the bond election results. So historically, just to kind of give you an idea, which I'm sure you're aware of, the current climate, property values are sky high, so voters are not as apt to vote for, bond elections or voters. So in May 2022, you can see the percentage of propositions, the number of propositions and dollar amount that passed were less than the average over the last 5-6 years. Debt service fund, and this fund the board is required to adopt in August. The proposed 2023 debt service fund there on the right, total expenditure $17.5 million, and that's enough to ensure we make all of our debt obligations for 2023. Finally, the Child Nutrition Fund, the third fund the board is required to formally adopt and approve. Our proposed budget for next year, total expenditures $3.3 million, about $150,000 more than the current year, so not a lot of change there. Other than you may see a little bit of expenditures. We budgeted for food this year. We're not budgeting for food next year. Kind of looks a little curious. We're having to change the nature of our contract with Aramark, and so instead of it being cost reimbursable, where they submit all their invoices, we reimburse them for food and things, plus a percentage for a management fee. It's a fixed price per meal, so there's a certain amount we reimburse them per every breakfast, lunch served, and so we're not actually going to be paying, reimbursing for food.
The Child Nutrition Fund, that's all federal funding, right?
So a lot of it is. So that revenue there up top, the federal funding is 1.8 million.
Yep.
Local is 1.7. So about half and half.
Yeah, not a whole lot of state. Yep.
So yeah, a question on that federal funding. So, because one of the sort of conspiracy theories floating out there is that this federal Department of Education is going to start to tie all sorts of crazy things to whether or not they'll give us money for food. We heard anything about that? Is there any basis to that you're aware of?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's probably just, it's a federally funded program. And so, a threat, well, if you don't do this, we're going to cut, your federal money. And so, but no, okay. I have not. So, and finally, the last slide, just our calendar dates. So we'll have a meeting in July. I'll give any updates between now and then. Certified values, July 25th. We'll post our budget and tax rate as required by the Education Code 1st of August, and then adopt the budget and tax rate at our August 16th meeting. Any questions?
So the only thing voters would have to approve is an increase. If we said we're going to keep the rate the same or we're going to drop the rate for some reason, voters don't have to approve that, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you for all of your hard work and your staff. Wesley, thank you.
We done?
That's it. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Wesley.
Well done, Mr. Brooks.
All right. We'll adjourn the special call meeting then and have a few minutes before our regular meeting starts. Vihan Sybil and his coach, April McAdams, if they would come forward and lead us in the pledge.
What did he end up placing? Was it third? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. And then we've got recognition, and we're going to appropriately recognize both these folks, in particular Vihan, for incredible accomplishment. Yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Russick. Members of the board, tonight we're going to be assisted by Jonathan Green, one of our newest board members in our recognitions. It's always great to see so many of you, especially in the month of June, the fact that we're in the summer, and the fact that we're still celebrating and recognizing our students and staff and school district for the 21-22 school year. So we're very, very excited about that. And so tonight, I also want to let everyone know, though, after the conclusion of our recognitions, we will take a quick short break. You're more than welcome to stay for the remainder of that agenda, but I realize some of you may want to head out, and you're more than, of course, welcome to do that, too. So I'm going to start now with Mr. Darrell Umhofer. If Darrell would come forward, and he has some special recognitions for us this evening. So, Mr. Umhofer, get that set up for you.
Good evening. Once again, Midway ISD has been recognized by the National Association of Music Merchants as one of their best communities for music education. This is our 14th year in a row that we've been recognized by NAM, and we're very excited about that recognition from them. We are one of 738 school districts across the country that are being celebrated this year for their outstanding efforts made by teachers, administrators, parents, community support, and everyone that's involved in elementary through high school music education. A 2022 Best Communities for Music Education District, Midway's programs have a strong history of success in contests, festivals, and audition to ensembles. Earning this distinction every year since 2008 is evidence of Midway's dedication to engaging students across the district through quality music education programs. We applaud Midway ISD. We also applaud our school board and our administrators for your unending support of our programs. Honestly, that award is based more on what we provide for kids as opposed to what kids do in recognition. So the award really should go to you folks, but I'll accept it on your behalf and we'll hand it back to you. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Umhofer. Next, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Jay Fisher, who's our principal of Midway Middle School, for a very special national award. So, Mr. Fisher, turn it over to you.
Good evening. Congratulations to incoming 8th grader Vihan Sybil, who completed the 2022 Scripps National Spelling Bee with a remarkable third-place finish. He was one of just 12 finalists left standing in the national competition that began with 229 spellers in the preliminary round. This was 13-year-old Vihan's second year in a row to qualify for the finals after tying for 7th place as a finalist last year. He has made it to the National Spelling Bee a total of 3 times, and in addition to his third-place finish, he also left with $15,000 prize. We are very proud of Vihan and all of his hard work. Thank you for representing Midway and Midway Middle School so well. Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. We'll also add, though, Vihan, I remember some of the comments you made at the conclusion was that you were going to enjoy that third-place finish, but also then it was time to get back to work, wasn't it, to study for the next year's contest. And I bet you've already been doing a lot of studying for the 23 contest, and so we know great things are in store for you. But also then now would like to introduce Ms. Sherry Burns, because we have a staff member that also is connected and related to this spelling bee that we'd love to honor this evening as well. So our principal, Ms. Sherry Burns of South Bosque. Ms. Burns?
Well, I am also happy to announce that elementary teacher April McAdams was recently named the Scripps National Spelling Bee Teacher of the Year. Mrs. McAdams teaches third grade at South Bosque and serves as our coordinator for the Central Texas Spelling Bee and has also helped four-time National Spelling Bee qualifier and rising eighth grader Vion Zippel get his start in spelling competitions when he was in her third grade class. Mrs. McAdams is dedicated to going above and beyond to encourage her students and help them succeed, and we are very grateful for the impact she continues to receive. Congratulations, April. It's a well-deserved honor.
Yay. All right. Thank you, Ms. McAdams. We appreciate you in providing that spark interest in Vihan to do what he's doing now. Yeah, congratulations. We're so proud of you. Okay, next we have quite a number of awards and recognitions for our high school students. And so I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Jess Wheeler, who's our associate principal at Midway High School. Mr. Wheeler, you'd like to come forward, please? Got some for you.
So we had 5 high schoolers competed at this year's state UIL academic meet in May. Graduated senior Carson Lutz was recognized at the May school board meeting, and tonight we have the privilege of recognizing the rest of those state competitors on that science team. Congratulations to the state UIL science competitors Michael Becker, Evan Jones, Ashlyn Malakar, and Thomas Workentine. This group of students won first place as a team at both district and regionals, earning them a spot to compete at the UIL state meet. Now, obviously, not everybody. We have lots of kids traveling, and so we're doing this that way if they're able to hear through video, and so we congratulate them. So congratulations to each of them for doing so well. So a 2022 graduate, Courtney Janeka, could not be here tonight, but wanted to acknowledge her achievement as a Congressional Award Gold Medal. This medal is the United States Congress' highest award honoring youth who make outstanding contributions to their community. To receive this Congressional Gold Medal, Courtney dedicated nearly 1,900 hours to voluntarily to our public service. As part of her community service, she helped make and sell beaded bracelets and raised over $20,000 to donate copies of the book her mom wrote about her experience with breast cancer to hospitals, hospice, and cancer centers and churches in the area so others could be encouraged by her mother's story. The Midway community is incredibly thankful for Courtney and the example of her service that she has set for all of us. Congratulations. So several students won top honors at both the state and national levels for the National Federation of Press Women's annual high school communications contest, which had its largest number of entries ever this year from students across the country. Considering this record number of entries, having their work recognized at the state and national levels represents a significant achievement for our kids. Congratulations to first place state winners, Kylie Daniel in the yearbook copyright category and Nathan Lampkin in the yearbook photograph categories. Kylie and Nathan both advanced to compete at the national level of high school communications contest, earning national honors. Kylie was awarded first place at nationals, and Nathan won second place. Congratulations as well to the following students who were also awarded at the state level. Camden Eggets and Brianna Armistead won second place. Brianna also won third place along with Victoria Hasbin, Alyssa Utrera, and Marlene Chaparro. Brianna also won third place, along with Victoria Hasman. I already read that part. And our state level honorable mention award winners were also Alyssa Utrera, Tatiana Chambers, Marlene Chaparro, Braylon Eubanks, Zoe Resbuer, Stormy Tucker, and the Panther Post staff. These students are some of the 65 staff members at the Midway High School yearbook and newspaper who produced the 240-page yearbook and a monthly 12-page newspaper by writing, photographing, and designing all aspects of these publications while under the supervision of advisor Jamie Beavers. So, congratulations. The high school journalism students have been hard at work this year because we have a second set of journalism awards to recognize tonight. The UIL's Interscholastic League Press Individual Achievement Awards, that's a lot of words, honor the top student journalist in Texas. And spring, several Midway students and 2 graduates were honored with 17 awards for yearbook and newspaper work. Many students won multiple awards in the same category or awarded in many other in more than one category. In the photo story category, both Emma Walker and Lauren Cincerni were awarded honorable mention. Graduate Victoria Hasbin won both first and second place in cartooning and second place in student art. Alyssa Utrera was awarded honorable mention and future page spread design. Christy Carmack won second place in news, photo, and third place in feature photo. Gabby Boydston received third place in news photo. In their entertainment photo category, Tatiana Chambers was awarded second, and Claire Peebles received honorable mention. Christy Carmack won second place for sports feature photo. Nathan Lampkin won both second and third place in the sports action photo category and was awarded honorable mention for his photo published in the Panther Post. David Garcia Juarez was also awarded honorable mention for his photos published in the Panther Post. And the Panther Post staff received honorable mention in the headline category. Congratulations to each of these students on their achievement. Last but not least, Midway High School journalism teacher Jamie Beavers is being honored this year with not only 1 but 2 professional awards. She was selected as the 2022 Class Intercom Content Generation Award Educator winner and was awarded the first place in objective writing in UIL's Interscholastic League Press Conference Annual Advisors Challenge. The National Content Generation Award celebrates educators for their creative use of social media, and Ms. Beaver's nomination highlighted how students in her Who newspaper class profiled all CTE teachers on social media in celebration of CTE month in February. She is also the district's leading teacher content creator on the Class Intercom platform. Additionally, in this year's Advisor Challenge competition held for teachers, educational, and freelance work, Ms. Beavers won for a free feature article she wrote on the Sol Ross Dance Club for senior citizens in Waco and received honorable mention for her photo. Ms. Beavers was taught photography, yearbook, newspaper, and independent study in journalism at Midway High School for 22 years. And we have just seen year after year her students continue to bring home top honors in journalism and photography. We are very grateful for her dedication to sharing her talents with students in our Midway community. Thank you.
Mr. Green, thank you. And thank you to all of you. I have the pleasure of the board because I see some families here, would like to move that part of the agenda to introduce our new assistant superintendents, if I may. All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It's kind of ceremonial. I have 2 empty seats, as you can see, sitting by Dr. Pena over there. And so it's kind of like we're ready to someone to fill those seats. It's been my pleasure, of course, to serve as superintendent and to work with Dr. Jeannie Johnson, who is retiring from her role as Assistant Superintendent of Admin Services here on June the 30th, as well as the impending retirement of Ms. Mary Lou Glazeman, who's our Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources. She's leaving in December. And so with that kind of a task ahead of us, one of the things, though, that I was very, very thankful for as superintendent was that in a sports analogy, we have a deep bench. We had a lot of highly skilled, highly talented, dedicated, loyal individuals here in Midway ISD that aspire to one of these roles. And so this spring I had the pleasure of visiting with, talking to all of our directors, all of our assistant soups, all of our principals, just again, coming out of COVID, just to learn, just to keep a pulse of what's going on in our school system, and also just again to do a little fact-finding. I didn't do any questions related to these 2 particular roles, but it really helped me formulate what I would be looking for, and in terms of what would be the best candidates for the future of Midway ISD. So that being said, I'd like to introduce our first Assistant Superintendent for Administrative Services is Dr. Becky Odejima. Dr. Odejima, if you come forward, please. And so I'll just say this isn't the hot seat, this is the nice seat. After tonight, it's the hot seat. So remember, so enjoy it while you can. No, I'm kidding. Dr. Odejima has been in the school district here in Midway for 10 years, has served as our Director of Innovation and Learning here in the school district. But she's also took on the task as our virtual school principal. Remember, we did have COVID, and March of 2020 was able to help us turn all that around and go live through our virtual academy. We've had the virtual academy then the next 2 school years. And so she's been our principal of that. She's formerly the associate principal of Midway High School, assistant principal and instructional technologist. And before coming to us, she was an instructional specialist in another school district and served 11 years as a middle school band director. That qualifies you enough right there. Middle school in band. So come on, let's put that together. She has her doctoral degree in education from Baylor, superintendent certificates from University of Texas at Tyler, master's degree in educational leadership from Central Michigan University. It's kind of strange. I think that was because of her husband, right? Moving her all the way up to Central Michigan, but thank goodness she got back because her bachelor's degree is in music from Stephen F. Austin University, along with her teacher certification. So tonight she has, who I'm picking on, but her husband Isaiah. Isaiah, if you'd please stand. We also have 2 current Midway students, and I believe Caitlin and Trenton, are they here? If they'd stand. And a graduate of Midway High School, now a student at Baylor, Grayson. So again, congratulations. We welcome you to this role, not to the district, but to this role. And to the family, thank you so much for sharing your mom and wife and spouse. We appreciate her very much. So please join me in congratulating Dr. Becky Odejima. Very nice. All right. And you're free to take the seat. All right. And as I mentioned to you, I had one other assistant superintendent role to fill. Mrs. Glazeman is going to help us in transitions as we open 2 new schools here in the fall and a new middle school until December, and assist in this transition of both Dr. Odejima and this next assistant superintendent. So I'd like to introduce to you tonight a very familiar face also in Midway ISD, and that is Dr. Ashley Knutson. Dr. Knutson. So, Dr. Knutson goes way back, is in terms of her involvement with Midway ISD, I believe a former student of our schools, elementary student on up. She began her teaching career right here at Midway High School as a biology teacher. I won't say when, or I should, but 1999 or so, and then became an assistant principal for our school system, and then assistant principal there, of course, at Midway High School, an associate principal at Midway High School, and spent the last 11 years, though, as our director of college and career military readiness. Began as director of our career technical education programs, still doing that too, just added more to her plate. And so she's been continuing to do that. She's worked with academic advising efforts, post-secondary accountability, and has continued to see we have as a district such gains in that particular area of the number of students that qualify or deemed by the state as college and career and military ready. She earned her doctorate degree also in curriculum and instruction from Baylor, superintendent certification from Lamar in Beaumont, her master's degree in administration from Tarleton, but her bachelor's degree from Baylor University with a focus on biology and health. Also tonight she has her husband Wade, if he would please stand, Wade. She has 2 children, both of them also started their education here in Midway ISD in pre-kindergarten. Zoe and Zane, they're here tonight? Oh, they're not here tonight. But never fear, Mom and Dad are here, though. So I also want to introduce to you Patty and Jerry Hawk, if they would please stand, too, Ashley's family. And so and Ashley, as I said, is a very familiar face to Midway, exudes such energy and enthusiasm, and so will be a perfect fit in our Human Resources Department as well. And so please join me in congratulating Dr. Ashley Knutson. Yes, great job. And as I said, please take your seat at Dr. Knutson. And so again, congratulations to both Dr. Knutson and Dr. Ojima.
Thank you, George. And so the rest of you folks that need to leave for the evening, feel free to do so. You 2 people that are sitting over there now have to stay. So thank everybody for being here. If you've got to leave, that's cool. If you want to stay, it's an open meeting. We'd love to have you. Okay, so we had the information item on the federal program's use of funds. Anybody have any questions on that information item? And if not, we'll go ahead and go to the monthly finance report.
So it's round 2 of Mr. Brooks.
Round 2.
For our monthly report, you'll notice in the consent agenda, we do have a budget amendment to increase expenditures for hosted athletic events, but there's also an increase in revenue for that. So just in and out on that item. Page 13 of the finance report, you'll see our general fund projection for the year, 2.6 million deficit. That includes all adopted budget amendments to date. Our next page shows the bond budget summary. Just to give you an update on where we're on our projects. Things are starting to kind of fill out a little bit. We're getting a better idea of kind of where we stand. You'll see the total bond package there at the bottom. Projected variance 239,000 positive, so pretty close to even there. And you can add the interest income below that to that amount of 1.8 million, so about $2 million favorable variance in our projects is what we're looking at so far. And the next page, in addition to that, shows our contingencies in each of our ongoing projects. So for instance, high school CTE wing, we started that project with a $2.59 million contingency. We have $1.7 million remaining, and getting kind of down to the end on those items. So those will change as we finish up the projects, but overall contingencies remaining on our ongoing projects are $6.6 million. Any questions?
So I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Brooks, for providing this, just to remind everyone, this is as of today. So, of course, in the contingency remaining, those projects aren't completely finished. However, the high school career tech in River Valley are very, very close. We're in that process. As you remember, you approved a guaranteed maximum price. So it's this, now we're in the process soon of what's called the final paying, the final bills, the buyouts, things like that. So this is going to change, fluctuate. I would estimate really not having a firm feeling of our remaining dollars until fall, like October, maybe November 1, until we finally get those projects behind us. But this is just the contingency. Remember, with the GMP, hopefully there's a little, it didn't cost quite as much as the guaranteed maximum as well. But that's why we have the auditors working with Townsend Associates and Mr. Brooks as well to look through those and soon pay some final bills in those particular projects. So it's positive, which is good news. And that at that time, then we could look at any other projects that we have talked about. For one of those, again, I'll remind you from all that we have done and from the bond steering committee and the list and where we made our decision to call for the $148 million bond. We've done so much of it, though, in addition to that, except one other project, which was locker room expansion project, possibly at the high school. So that's one large major project. Other than that, I know other things that have been talked about or questions so far. I know Mr. Freeman has brought it up. We already made a change at Park Hill and Chapel Park with playgrounds, so that could be possibility of other playground type of renovations at some of the elementary schools. I know Ms. Marlin works hard with us on signage, and that's just a tough area as well for PTAs to raise for things like that. It's just some better signage at some of the schools. So we're looking, of course, would bring those, but it's to me premature now until we really get this finished, these paid for. We did account for the Midway Middle School, both phase 1 and 2, which is good. So we don't have anything else at this point to put out for bid, which is nice. We're done with that. We have a locked-in price at least for the most part. So that's good. So I just wanted you to know overall, again, this is I would say the minimum positive variance that we should have. Hopefully it'll continue to rise a little bit.
So these contingency remaining includes the sidewalk at Park Hill and
Already taken care of.
all that's already come out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then I wanted to take the liberty real quickly to point out, Mr. Brooks didn't, but if you look at our adopted budget, that slide, if you'll go back to that, I keep asking him this particular question, but one of the things as he presented this at our budget workshop was our proposed deficit budget for the 22-23 school year. But just, again, we're in the month of June. He's going to continue to revise this projection column. But remember, we basically approved 1.9 last school year. And right now he's projecting 2.6. But remember, about 1.7, 1.8 of that is for field turf and for the scoreboard. And so if you take those off, you're looking at that we are already in the good $800,000 of this year's budget without those two major expenditures, and then continually I call it pay the final bills and get the final invoices in for the 21-22 school year. Wesley will do that. Ms. Pointer will finish up the books soon as we get close to finishing those up in August, and hopefully we'll continue to see a downward trend. But just to understand, every year we're fortunate to have some of that $1 million plus turnaround in the budgets. But just don't get alarmed that it's 2.6 because that includes about 1.7, 1.8 of one-time expenditures. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Brooks. That's all I have.
Other questions from the board? Very good. Thank you, Wesley. Bond construction update, Buddy.
President Russick, Dr. Kazanis, board members, thank you again for allowing me to work here. Thank you for allowing me to oversee the bond project. It's been great. I really do enjoy this part of it, and so I'm having a ball. The CTE addition, as Dr. Kazanis alluded to, that is nearing completion. Furniture's being delivered. We created a punch list week before last, so they're working on those items. We'll be moving furniture into the building soon. So everything's looking good there. They're trying to tidy up all the outside stuff. There's a sidewalk that still has to go in from the front of the CTE out to the street, and it'll tie into the new sidewalk that the city of Waco's building down Mars Drive. But that's already been taken out of the contingency fund, or I think it's already been allocated for. River Valley, same thing. Very close to finishing. Furniture's being delivered. The grass is being installed on the football field, the practice field. The grass is already on it. We've had a little bit of trouble getting enough grass, so they got part of the football field done, and they should hope to finish the rest of it up this week. They've started on the tennis courts. It's looking really good. The ITC building, the technology department has moved in, and yesterday they moved over the final connections to all of our other campuses. So you're no longer operating out of the middle school at all, are you, Jesse? Everything's over there. And if you remember, we had trouble getting, you knew I had to talk about it, didn't you, Rick? Crack units for the server room. Well, they have come in. They have finally come in. They are in the room, and by Friday, they will be up and running, and so the server room will no longer be operating on temporary AC. That's the plan. Pretty impressive units. I had no idea they would be that large. They're huge.
We've got to keep our data cool.
Yes.
Very important.
We do.
You'd be surprised. Yeah.
Park Hill Elementary, you heard Dr. Kazanis allude to October, November. He's talking about the completion of Park Hill. I'm just seeing if any of you were listening.
Wait, I thought, wait a minute now.
We're still planning on having school August 18th. I know teachers come back August 1st. So July 25th is still our deadline for completion of that, substantial completion. There will still be probably some outside work. There will still be some punch list items being taken care of after that date. When we have our OAC meeting this Thursday, one of the topics of discussion will be a sense of urgency as we are getting closer to that date. I've asked them several times. I met with them yesterday. Kevin, are we okay? Yes, we are. I said, do you want to come to the board meeting tomorrow night and tell them? He said, no. Chapel Park. Chapel Park's looking good. The inside, we did a punch list week before last on that. They're working on the outside stuff now. The canopies are going up. They look really good. They got the screen walls up, or some of the screen walls up in front of the AC out in front of the building. They look really good. If you drive by there tonight, there is some conduit up on top of the canopies, and that was a mistake, and that will be moved where you can't see it. So if you drive by there and see that today, that was not supposed to be that way. The middle school demolition has taken place. As you know, the administration area, we plan on having that ready to go when school starts. So they've already put up the metal stud walls. We are in the process of getting the final portables moved in at the middle school. Two of the portables that we own, we got those moved the first week of June, and now they're moving the ones that we're setting at Castleman Creek up there. So we're working on that. That project's coming along. That one will come down to the wire too. Jay, let's go ahead and tell you now, it's going to come down to the wire. He knows that. He's there every day working out of the library, so he sees it. The Spring Valley and Hewitt Elementary driveway projects. At Spring Valley, they have the curbs in, they have the base down, they're ready to lay asphalt. They've started on the parking lot, getting the base in for the parking lot. At Hewitt Elementary, that driveway that we're replacing there is going back with concrete, and they have most of it poured. They should be finished with that by the end of the week. That looks really good. Phase 2 of the high school HVAC project has started off. It's going much smoother than last year's went. And last year's, we got done on time. But they already have like 70% of the units hung. So that project's moving along well. We also got good news that the Lennox units that we ordered back in February that we were told they wouldn't come until September, now they're supposed to ship this week. So maybe all but one. So that should allow that project to finish up this summer. And instead of, we were going to have to do it at Thanksgiving and Christmas or spring break. Now, since we're talking about HVAC, I want to make you aware of something that's coming up. If you look over there on the wall and you see that thermostat, and you go over there and look at the name of that thermostat, it is a Prolifix thermostat. Several years ago, before I got here, the district put these Prolifix thermostats, I guess they were everywhere at one time, except for we had some stuff at Spring Valley and some stuff at the high school that was on an older train system. Woodway was on an older train system, those geothermal units. So we started a couple of years ago moving those over to a Niagara system that we have control of. All of those units are controlled through the cloud that is supported by Prolifix. Prolifix has stopped giving us support on hardware, and then we found out today that September 1st, they're going to cease the cloud service. So that means we will no longer be able to talk to all of these thermostats. So when you're hot in here, I can't text Thomas and say, hey, turn the thermostat down in the admin. The programming that's in them will stay in there, and they would all have to go around and manually adjust them all. But tomorrow we are having a meeting with one of the smartest people at Capstone, Dave. It's not Rick. Dave Torbert. He's one of the smartest people I know. You would probably have to say that too. And so we're going to start working on a plan of how we're going to attack this problem. Right now, these are the areas that are still on Prolifix operating through their cloud service. The stadium, part of the middle school, admin, South Bosque, Hewitt Elementary, part of Spring Valley, all of Castleman Creek, support services, DAEP, part of Chapel Park, Spiegelville Elementary, and at high school, the Fine Arts Wing. To date, we have converted over to the new Niagara system. Woodway, most of the high school will be finished when we finish this summer's project. River Valley was converted over during its renovation. Most of Chapel Park will be converted over. Part of the middle school will be converted over when we finish phase 1. And then, of course, the ITC is over on the new system. So I just want to make you aware of that. I talked to Wesley about it today and told him that converting this over it's not going to be free. Unless maybe y'all could twist Rick's arm really hard. But it is coming, and there's going to be a cost associated with it. We don't know yet exactly what we're going to do, but we do have to do something. So we're exploring options right now.
Does that mean entirely new HVAC systems, or can you get just a
No.
new device? And
No, it's different options. Like one of the options that we're looking at is a way that we can have our own server, but that it actually talks to these thermostats and doesn't go through their cloud service. That's the main thing that we have to figure out, how we're going to attack that problem. Anything, Rick, you would like to add to that?
Well, I mean, it's scheduling, but it's also alarming, knowing when units aren't working and being proactive. And you've got thousands of units and how many techs, on staff. So
We have 3. Yeah.
it's hard to manage unless there's a proactive system that's telling you when things aren't working.
No, this isn't an our bond deal, but how's the road construction out in front of the high school?
They are into phase 2. From Old Hewitt to Hewitt, that part's open. And the intersection there is open right now on Old Hewitt. So it's closed down from Old Hewitt to Panther Run. That part's closed down. So all we really had to change right now was our entrance into the construction site. We're just coming in off of Panther Run instead of Mars Drive. There is quite a bit of traffic that's making their way through our parking lot at the high school by the MAC. Just because you get there and you think, oh, I can't go this way. And so you look for the quickest way around. And I have seen quite a few cars coming through that parking lot, but this time of year, it's not a big deal.
We need to raise some more money. We just put a little toll booth there at the.
Where?
The people cutting through.
There we go.
Yeah, right.
We'll let you man that booth. Susan.
If you don't mind, I have one thing. Of course, a lot of people in this room deserve kudos for Buddy and his staff for taking on the bond packages overall. Buddy and Thomas and staff with $150 million added, and facilities we're adding, so very much appreciate you. And then these campus principals that have these occurring at their schools are working, as well as being part of the owner, architect, contractor meetings, and they've been consistently doing those and planning, as well as like with Dr. Knutson at the CTE. Y'all saw the furniture and equipment process, but probably again, we make light of it, but I do know for a fact on 2 different holidays that Jesse Garn and his crew, you had to, just imagine all of the nuts and bolts and the systems, the servers of our district were shut down only for a day in order to migrate those from Midway Middle School, where we currently were, then to where we are in a new ITC building. And so that was kind of a one day, and then I know they did something yesterday that fiber, I believe, is where all the fiber used to be connected and go straight into the middle school for the entire district. Now all that is at the ITC building. But we're able to do that during like the Memorial Day holiday and then this holiday where we weren't down as a district. We weren't down not being able to do our schools and functions. And so Jesse and his crew, you see Isaac and Serge there right now and others, worked hard to make that happen and put in a lot of hours for us to lay people, I call it, persons that work here every single day, to still come in and our computers working and internet and email and functionality there. And so Jesse, thank you for and your crew. I know you still have a lot more to go a little bit, but they have a huge chunks and huge accomplishments behind them, and that makes me feel the best because that's the first thing we need, that security of our data, security of our technology, security systems, as you know, so much are run through technology, and so we're up and running and good to go. So thank you, Jesse and team. Appreciate you very much.
Quite.
With that,
Question real quick, and
Yeah.
I see Tracy's not here, so this maybe is probably a question for her, but what is our sort of timeline for rolling these buildings out for people to see, whether it's families, teachers, the
she has
community?
it.
I don't know.
She'll be publishing it soon. I don't know exactly. We'll do lots of ribbon cuttings,
Yeah.
and then
Well, that's
ribbon
okay.
cutting is one event. But in addition to that, we'll do tours, of course, 2 more
Right.
depth tours. Ribbon cutting is ceremonial, but we'll also have a lot of other opportunities. Because we want to show these. We want to thank our community for it, but they should see the fruits of this labor of what's in store for our kids. So definitely. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Buddy.
Well done.
All right, then, time for the crystal ball exercise, right?
Yeah, as Bob Templeton, he's a reader of the Crystal Ball of Demographics. So y'all remember Bob Templeton, he's with Zonda Education, but I have to tell a fast story. Bob spoke, I have in the summer teach a group of doctoral students, and Bob wanted to publicly say this because they said they were a little apprehensive about data and state demographics, and they said, They couldn't believe that an individual for, it was almost 3 full hours, could make data so engaging. They were engaged the entire time. And that's kudos to you and your educational background, but also how you explain data and present it, and for us to understand it and to use data appropriately. So thank you, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you're here, Bob.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Russick, members of the board, Dr. Kazanis. I'm also proud to say I'm a resident of Midway ISD.
Yay.
We purchased a home back in November in Stone Creek Ranch, and I've got a daughter and her husband that live in Gatesville, and a 1-month-old granddaughter, and a 18-month-old grandson. So our world has really taken a very positive spin with us moving to the area. I wished I'd done it several years ago. I have definitely spent less nights out of the home because of the location of this area to my clients in Waco, to my clients in Dallas-Fort Worth, and so I'm literally able to get home much, much easier now. Well, I've got our spring report, and this is interesting data as well. We're entering a new season. That, you know, the pandemic is winding down. The housing picture may be about to get a little more cloudy because of the interest rates. So the interest rates we've not seen this dramatic of an increase in the interest rate in such a short period of time. When I say that, literally 2.5, 3 months ago, the interest rate was about 3%. Now it's pushing 6%. So it has literally doubled in about a 2-month period. And that has a pretty significant impact on the monthly payment. So it's going to affect 2 buckets of buyers. It's going to affect the first-time home buyers, the really young buyers. It's also going to affect the move-up home buyers, those that were considering buying a bigger home, buying a nicer home, or moving to a different region because they're locked in at likely 3% rates, and they're not going to want to finance a bigger, nicer home at a 5 to 6% interest rate. So those 2 buckets of buyers could be sitting on the bench. Now, I'll touch on the economic conditions just real quickly. The unemployment rates have gotten back near where they were prior to the pandemic. These are the March numbers when the Waco Midway area was about 3.43%, but I'll tell you that number's a little bit misleading because we've got fringes of the labor force that are still they're not working. They're choosing not to work. That's the senior, older workers. It's also the families with preschool-age children. There's still some hesitancy to put kids into daycare because of the pandemic, but also because of cost. The cost of daycare has gone up, so therefore families are now figuring out, well, one of us can stay home and just not go back. And so this fringes of the labor force that are not back is creating a shortage of labor in every industry. It's happening in professional services, it's happening in trade, transportation, leisure, hospitality, and it's going to be a challenge for education, especially to fill those support service roles and substitute teachers. So this is going to be a challenging year. I've got 2 positions open, and I run through my applications that I had 45 applicants for one job that was a research position, and I was shocked to see that 1/3 of the applicants were teachers. There's a significant number of teachers that are leaving the industry because of stress of pandemic, because of all kinds of things. But I've had this position posted, usually about every 2 to 3 years, and never had I seen the amount of education background applicants coming in. So that's going to also, I think, lead to this challenge to fill open positions. We've got a section of the teaching force that is leaving the industry. We've had a shortage of coming up out of college, but we also are still the fastest growing state in the country. So we are still adding, 55,000 school-age children to Texas schools this past year. So that's creating some of that challenge. Now, when we look locally, we are seeing some very good local economic news. Of course, you're familiar with the Amazon Distribution Center just down the road. Now, those are good jobs. $15 to $20 an hour will be the starting wage for those jobs. SpaceX, out in McGregor, I feel SpaceX happening happening almost on a weekly basis. Those are a little bit higher paying jobs. They are adding jobs, so that's going to be a positive. We're also seeing some manufacturing expansion, some mechanical engineering, the Knopf insulation, Inverness, and Capstone Mechanical, all adding. So there is some local expansion that's happening in the Waco Temple region, also in Temple Belton. The Central Texas region is the strongest region in the country for job growth. Austin, no doubt, is the anchor of that job growth, but because Austin is getting so expensive, many industry is looking, a little bit further out. So we are seeing a lot of interest in Temple, Belton, Waco, San Marcos, New Braunfels. So it is that I-35 corridor, but it is the anchor of the growth is still going to be Austin for the foreseeable future, just because of Tesla, because of Samsung, because of the technology jobs that are coming to the Austin region. So even with this inflation and even with some uncertainty in the economy, Central Texas is going to just be buffered to some degree because the job growth is in its early stages, and it's still, going to be coming for the next couple of years. Now, the challenge is inflation. So inflation is at 40-year highs. It's basically every area of our economy. It's food, it's energy, it's materials, and it is a large portion of it is related to energy. So the fuel cost affects so much with food and with materials that it's that energy issue. In fact, it's almost doubled. The price per gallon has doubled in about a year and a half time period. So that is going to be something we are going to be concerned about. Now, to give you the big picture on the housing for the Waco region, the January to December 2020 kind of gives you the average for a home to sell in the Waco region was about $238,000. That was the average across Waco. Look what it did in the 2021 year. It jumped to $275,000. So we did see an increase in the cost of housing. Now, there was a couple of reasons why that happened. When the pandemic started, we had a shortage of supply of existing homes. So homeowners were hesitant to put their homes on the market during the pandemic because they didn't want traffic coming through the homes. There was also some uncertainty about what was going to happen with the economy. So then that lit the fire under the new home market. So new housing really surged during that pandemic, and it's caused an acceleration in the pricing because the demand was higher than the supply. Now, when we look specifically at Midway ISD, you can see this is total home sales going back to 2015. 2020 was a record-breaking year. We had over 1,500 total home sales, and about 30 to 35% of that was new homes. So new homes was making up about a third of that. Now, it dropped in 2021. The reason it dropped in 2021, again, it was because of the shortage of supply of existing homes. So there weren't as many existing homes that were sold that year because of the shortage. Now, we've seen a surge in new home construction, and developers are very active in Midway right now. So we're seeing new lots, new developments coming. There's about 600 lots that are in development that are likely going to be delivered very soon. Now, the average price for a new home within Midway ISD is increasing. It's up to $327,000. That was the average for a new home in Midway as of the end of 2021. The average price for an existing home had gone up to about $291,000. Now, this is where we could start to see some softening. So the Fed's raising of the interest rate is a response to help slow down inflation. Now, should inflation continue to go up, they will raise the rates again. Now, if inflation softens, they won't raise the rate again, and it's hopeful that at some point in the future, the rates could come back down. But this rate challenge is going to definitely have an impact on housing. Now, what we're understanding from our interviews with builders and in our interviews and research across the country is right now what's under construction and in the pipeline is likely going to be sold and finished, and any of the cancellations, a large portion in Texas especially, are being bought by investors and institutions. It's been a big story that's been in the Texas press lately. In fact, one of our state representatives is calling for an investigation because of the amount of investor purchases that is happening in the state of Texas. So we're going to want to watch that very closely. Now here's the map of your elementary attendance zones. Those green shaded areas are active subdivisions that are building single-family homes. The green are active. The yellow are the future subdivisions that are in the planning stages, and where you see a red outline around either a green or a yellow subdivision, that's indicating that those are areas where development activity is taking place and they are working to deliver new lots. So that's where the new lots are coming. We've got 22 actively building subdivisions. We have 6 future subdivisions that are in planning stages. The future subdivisions are concept plans or preliminary plats that we have received from the cities. And so they will take anywhere from 6 months to 3 years. They can be multiple years for some of those futures to actually come to delivery. Now I'm going to touch on some of the highlights. We've got satellite imagery from April, and some of this imagery that we're accessing can get updated about once a month, so we are able to look at this data pretty regularly. The Park Meadows is about 1,224 lots. It's one of the larger communities. There was 11 vacant developed lots in the existing sections, but phase 4 with 139 lots should be delivered. And so we've got another phase 5 with 169 lots. They were approved. The groundwork is likely starting sometime in the next few months. This development is building about 150 to 200 homes per year. When we did our research, there were 36 homes that were under construction. You can see where those phases 4, phases 5, are around kind of the edges of that development. And you can see, so they're likely going to get those lots on the ground, and then we'll see what happens with the interest rate, how it affects. I don't see this interest rate affecting this fall's enrollment. So the enrollment projections that we've made for this fall, the amount of homes that are under construction, the families that are going to be moving in, the interest rate hikes could impact the sales and the starts of new homes in the second and third quarter or in the fall. So that's when we're going to be watching to see if this a slowdown because of these interest rates will likely reveal itself with new contracts and new home starts in the fall. Now some other highlights: Park Meadows South, 809 total lots, 94 homes under construction when we did the research. First residents are arriving. The groundwork is underway on phase 2, which has 232 lots. They should be delivering those lots this fall, and they're building about 50 to 100 homes per year. Now, it is taking longer to finish homes. What used to take 4 to 5 months to finish homes is now taking 6 to 9 months to finish homes. Very interesting, when we moved into a new home in Stone Creek Ranch, and 3 houses down from us was a home in November that was framed and had the roof on, back in November. That home is still under construction. It hasn't finished. And so it's getting close. So it's likely within about another 4 to 5 weeks it'll be finished. But that's going to be pushing a year that home has likely been under construction. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is the Renaissance Phase 6, which is 58 total lots. The groundwork is nearing completion. The lots are pre-selling, so we should see home building starting anytime in that Renaissance Phase 6. And then to the south there, we've got Creekside Edition, which is 750 total lots. There were 29 homes under construction. The final plat for Phase 10 was approved this past December. They're building about 50 to 80 homes per year in the Creekside Edition. Next, we're looking at Chapel Ridge Edition, which is 331 total lots, 15 vacant developed lots. They've got 6 homes under construction. Phase 9 with 24 lots, the groundwork is underway, should be delivering anytime. They're building about 20 to 40 homes per year. That price range is $250 to $550. It's probably, there's not much under $300,000 in Chapel Ridge Edition. Next, we're looking at Tanglewood Estates, which is 450 total lots. There were 113 homes under construction. Phase 1, 130 lots were delivered. in early 2022, so they are getting their first residents are moving in. The developer anticipates about 40 to 60 homes per year in Tanglewood Estates. And then just right next to that development is Garden Meadows, which is 300 total lots. There were 2 homes under construction. First residents are coming anytime now for Garden Meadows. There is Phase 5 has 120 townhome units. They were approved July a year ago, and they anticipate home building starting in early 2023 for those townhome sections. And home building in phases 2 and 3 should happen in early 2024, and they're anticipating about 15 homes per year in Garden Meadows. Now, the west end out Val Verde, just on the other side of the airport there, I drove through there last week just to kind of see what was happening there. And it's a total of about 600 lots, 52 vacant developed lots. Home building is underway on some of those first homes. The first residents would be late summer, fall, likely fall. And the developer anticipates building about 25 homes per year. And so this is about a 15-year master plan project. There's a couple of builders there. I know I've seen about 2 different builder signs in the west end at Val Verde. Got a very cloudy image on this satellite imagery, but we wanted to kind of see, you can see through the clouds there. We do have the groundwork underway on Westlake Estates. So should be starting homes in the fall. And lots are about 1/3 of an acre to 2.9 acres. The lot price is $250,000. So these are going to be expensive homes. It's the location near the lake. These are likely pushing these are $1 million homes that are going to be near the lake. And then Deer Valley Estates is a future. It's in the South Bosque Elementary Zone. It's 90 future lots. The groundwork is underway on those lots. Home building should be starting in 2023. And the developer anticipates about 20 homes per year. The lot price is $190,000 to $350,000 in this development as well. Now, with a higher price point home, the yield will be older. So it'll have a lower elementary yield and it'll have a higher middle school, high school yield, because these aren't going to be first-time home buyers that are going to be buying these homes. These will be likely older families with middle school, high school age kids. There'll still be a few elementaries, but it's going to be a little bit older yield. Now that was the highlights on the single family research. Wanted to touch on the transfer report. Yes, sir.
Real quick, and this may be a better question for Wesley, but we've been on the bubble for getting the fast growth allotment. Do you have any idea where we're going to fit into that this year?
We do, yes. We received some this year, and we'll probably get some next year. I'll have to look and see exactly how much. It's not as significant as it used to be.
Yeah, I just remember we were kind of on the bubble years.
But then they went to an average, correct?
Yeah, they changed it. It used to be kind of an all or nothing. You either get,
you were in the top 25% or you weren't.
But now it's kind of tiered, kind of depending on your growth.
Gotcha.
Over a certain number of years. They were, I think, looking at a 5-year snapshot of growth.
Gotcha. All right.
So this is data from the Texas Education Agency. It's the transfer report. The top table is showing the numbers of students that are transferring into the district. This year, we had 251 students that transfer in. I suspect a majority of those are staff kids that are coming in with their parents that work in the district. The bottom table is those that live in the district that are transferring to either surrounding school districts or to charter schools. And you'll notice that this year the transfer out is 432 compared to about 251 that are transferring in. So there's a little bit of a higher number that are transferring out than are transferring in. Now here's a look at the projections. So we feel good about these projections. This year's number of 183 was a little bit of a COVID bounce. So the reason it was 2.2, especially when you look at it in the light of the last 2 years, the previous year, 2020-21, that drop was a pandemic caused drop in the enrollment. And we saw that with a majority of our clients. We work with about 100 school districts, and a majority had that exact same pattern of a negative pattern in the 2021 year. So this year's number was 183, 2.2. Next year we're forecasting 143. I feel like that's a safe, good number. And then the 23, 24, when it jumps to 180, that's the number that I'm going to want to look at in the fall and see what happens in terms of new starts or sales. These numbers are basically predicated on about 350 new homes per year. So 350 new homes per year is what's driving that 150 to 180 students per year. So should we see a slowdown in the fall with starts, it may cause me to move that number down just a little bit in the 23, 24 year. But overall, this 10-year forecast is built on about 350 homes per year. It could get to about 400 to 500 homes per year as we get new developments on and if the region continues to see strong economic growth. Now, here's what it looks like in terms of your grade configuration change, your new campuses. So Castleman Creek is close to capacity, but you can see it kind of starts to drop down a little bit. So over time, Castleman Creek Elementary should be underneath its capacity. South Bosque Elementary will float up close to capacity in about 3 to 4 years. Now, we knew this. This was, was a part of the boundary challenge when we went to drawing the boundaries. This was a challenge that we ran into. So this isn't necessarily a new information concerning South Bosque Elementary. Now, Spring Valley is going to be approaching its capacity, but it stays just under in about 4 to 5 years, and then Park Hill Elementary could be approaching its capacity in 2025 in about 4 years. Now, keep in mind, I always encourage our clients, really just look at the 5-year horizon, because a lot can change in 5 years. So does the interest rates have an impact? Well, we'll know that, I think, in the fall. At the secondary level, you're in pretty good shape at your middle schools. So River Valley Middle School, you can see, is growing at a pretty healthy rate, and it catches up or gets really close to Midway Middle School's numbers in about 7 to 8 years. They're going to be very comparable in size. Midway High School is going to be approaching capacity in likely 7 to 9 years. So capacity is something we'll want to watch very closely, but for the short term, for the next 4 to 5 years, Midway High School is in good shape. So key takeaways: increased economic development in the Waco region is supporting housing growth. So we are seeing, the economy in the Waco region growing. That's drawing families here, and the housing is available and growing in Midway ISD. So as Waco grows, Midway is going to grow because we've got the housing, we've got the developments here. New home activity within the Waco region continues to match the trends we saw in 2021. The district has roughly 260 lots available for builders to build on and 2,270 futures that are in the planning stages. Of those futures, there's 630 lots that are in the development pipeline. We do expect that your enrollment could reach about 9,300 by 2026-27 and more than 10,300 in 10 years by the 2031-32 year. Be happy to answer any questions.
You guys look at multifamily and rental?
We do look at multifamily, and we're tracking the multifamily. In fact, I'll include a multifamily slide to show that. But the multifamily doesn't make up as much of the growth. The growth is primarily being driven by the single family. But we do track the multifamily development.
I know sometimes when interest rates rise, it forces people more into rental units instead of...
No, that's a very good point, and it is something we're going to want to watch because it does, bottom line is it affects the affordability. So far, what our research is telling us on the change from a 3% to a 5% interest rate affects the monthly payment by about $400 to $600 per month. That's what that change means to their bottom line. Now, this could slow down construction inflation as well. Now, it was great news for me to hear your bond report because I can tell you out of the dozen school board meetings that I've done in the last 2 months, I hadn't heard one that had that positive of a news about your budget and about your budgeting. Eagle Mountain Saginaw, their high school was $80 million over budget. The Northwest ISD passed a bond in May of 21. So they passed their bond in May of 2021. They're already short, estimated about $150 million on their projects because of they budgeted 12% inflation. Now this past year, the inflation was more like 25%. Comal ISD bid 2 elementary schools just a couple of months ago. Both those elementary schools are $10 million over budget. So that's the news that I'm hearing with the majority of the school district meetings that I'm attending right now. So when I heard yours, I was like, wow, that's awesome. That's great. So you really are in a good spot in terms of getting that bond completed when you did and getting those projects bid when you did, because many of the school districts are not faring so well. I will send an addendum on the multifamily.
So for them, when you talk about 350 per year, is sort of
Single
what you're-
family, yes.
What you're basing on, that's new construction.
New
So you're-
construction.
Is there a target for other home sales that aren't new, or does it not really affect it?
It doesn't really affect it because the existing home sales tend to wash with families leaving and new families coming, and so it's really new housing units that add additional housing units to the district.
Yeah.
Now, the existing home sales can have an impact over the long run when it comes to, so what tends to happen from my research and what I've understood is, so when subdivisions that are filled with all these new homes and these families have bought these homes, they will tend to stay in there all the way through their kids' time in school. And then they go off to college. And then they still stay, they don't sell the house, and it's exactly what we did. When did I make the decision to move and sell my house? When grad kids came around. When my kids were still in college, they wanted to come home to where they went to high school and where they grew up. So there was that need to stay put. Now that when the kids go off, now they boomerang a little bit, so they're going to come back after college for a few years, or in some cases. In some cases they boomerang and come back, but then once they leave and go on and settle down, that's when we start to see those homes that would sell, and we see the backfilling of regeneration that can occur.
But it's really not something that you can track as closely as.
No,
new
now
sales.
we
I mean,
do
new
look.
sales are really more.
It's more about the new homes. So you fit the same category of a fast growth district, but it's all relative. You're the fast growth for the Waco region. So you are the destination district where families with school-age kids want to be here. And so it's the same thing that we see, but to a smaller degree. It's the same thing we see with, Prosper, Brock, Argyle, those districts right around the edges of Fort Worth. You're that to Waco. And so it really is about the single-family home that makes up the majority of the new families coming into the district or from the new housing.
And I remember during our zoning, we were talking about various subdivisions, things that were being built, and we talked about Park Meadows. I want to say you told us that it was averaging around 0.5 students per lot. Is that still
Yes,
what
that's
we're
still
projecting?
that's still the same.
Is that Park Meadows and Park Meadows South is 2,000 lots. That's a lot of kids.
It is. Yep.
Okay.
Now, the pandemic we did see a drastic shock to education. When I say a shock to education across the state, last year the enrollment dropped to 122,000 kids. That's never happened. We've never had one year where we were negative one student. And last year, 122,000. Now, we did work in Louisiana, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Colorado. Every state had the same pattern. They all dropped. Now, what we know is they dropped primarily at pre-K kindergarten first. It was primarily the younger grade levels. Now, the challenge has been they did not come back across the state of Texas. We only grew 55,000 kids this year in Texas. We always grow that much. That's a normal year. So what happened to the 122,000 kids that were down last year? So the negative 122 is really down about 170,000. So they went homeschool. We had huge numbers of kids last year went homeschool. Now, the homeschool industry benefited from this virtual technology surge, and so there's more co-opting that happens in homeschool. And so what we're suspecting could be happening is, now this is not specific to Midway, this is my greater Texas spin. We'll see families that are going to stick in homeschool while their kids are in elementary because they're easier to teach, they know the material, it's easier for me to teach those elementary subjects. But then as those kids get to middle school, they're going to be returning in large numbers because, one, the subjects are getting more challenging. Two, extracurricular, fine arts and band, sports, they're going to want to come back to get that. So we could start to see the numbers really surge in middle school because of the homeschool return. If you think of other questions, send them on to Dr. Kazanis, and I'll be happy to respond at any time.
Bob, if you don't mind, just kind of wanted to recap the 10-year forecast, just to bring attention to it. I'm sure you all have done the same thing, but as Bob said, 5 years is really the life of these. However, it does have the 10. Of course, we'll continue to revise these, but if you look at the 5-year, that would be the 26, 27 school year. Just to make, yes, it's alarming about Park Hill already being in overcapacity, but just to understand that's why the process we went through for zoning is important, because you're not going to leave zoning for another decade. I'm just putting that out. We're going to, as a district, have to look at zoning, because look at then aging of neighborhoods. And yes, we still have room though at Hewitt Elementary School, Castleman Creek, not so much, a little bit of space. Spring Valley, not so much at 580, but a little bit of space. Just meaning in terms of some tweaks and or that, but particularly looking at that Park Hill and that Hewitt Elementary zones, there could be a shift, at least help alleviate some of this red of Park Hill. Same thing could be said with Chapel Park, further down the road, but definitely you can see Woodways is an older now in terms of kids and zone, but it could pick up again some of those from Chapel Park. We would look very carefully at some of the ones that Bob mentioned that are coming online. I know you mentioned one of them, like we're doing with West End is Chapel Park, but I think the one by Twin Rivers, Deer Park, I can't remember, but it's next to the Riverside, across the street from River Valley Middle. It could be Spiegelville, for example. We have to make then some decisions when these come online. Some of the subdivisions just looking at these particular numbers to help with that South Bosque number as well. South Bosque, like it is, also still looking at Woodway, because you can see Woodway with 500 on average eventually has 100 to 140, capacity more to go too. So I'm just saying we have to look, instead of saying, oh no, what do? We also have, of course, the tool of maybe in 5 years looking at zones, again, possible shifts in order to balance those out just a little bit more. And we'll need detailed data like that to see which neighborhoods make sense that have kids and can kind of balance out, particularly as you can see Park Hill there. So.
Have we gone in and overlaid this with what we were looking at during the zoning for 2, 3, and 4 years from now at least to see what might have changed? Or is it even worth doing? Is it a dozen students here or there?
I think we need to do it in the fall, because then we will have.
We know an actual number.
That's right, because, the things that are going to be subtly adjusting will be some transfer patterns because of staff. So the staff transfers are going to come into play here that will affect the numbers to a small degree. So we'll want to look to see also what was the COVID return. Did we see, again, the COVID pandemic impacted this school year as well. We had the Delta variant at the beginning of the school year. We had Omicron in January and February. So there could be some more COVID returners.
The young ones.
Yes, the really young ones.
Remember, you all approved with getting more students in earlier, the pre-K3. We'll see what kind of effect that has, just with more folks thinking of school being already in the system at 3 for pre-kindergarten on to pre-K 4, 5.
Because we've introduced a pretty drastic change. When I say that, we changed the grade configuration, and we've added a second middle school. We've added a couple of elementaries. So then there's a new pattern that's going to emerge when this school year starts because of these changes.
So we'll see you again in October is what you're saying.
Yes.
And you'll see them around town now, too.
That's right.
That's right.
Love George's. Love George's.
We can grab them now.
Love DeCampoli's and HEB. We're at HEB a couple times a week.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Anything else, Jonathan? You good?
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Bob.
Appreciate it.
Extracurricular program. Brad and Daryl. Who's first?
That's exactly, they're drawing straws, I think, on that one. I think Brad's deferring to his elder a little bit, right?
Yeah. Thank y'all.
Look at that.
I know, that's not bad, huh? I kind of like it. Tracy did a good job working through that. Thanks for letting me come talk about athletics tonight. I promise I'm not here to directly ask for anything this time. I promise. The last couple of times I've asked for a few things, so not directly at least. But speaking of, I hope everyone's made it out to see some of the new turf projects we've had, baseball and softball. We certainly don't take those for granted. They've been huge game changers for us. Turf the football field, obviously baseball and softball there. Some things that we've never done in the past. We hosted 8 baseball and softball games this year. We had one game that was postponed. It was due to lightning, and it rained all day, and we could have played on it, just lightning wouldn't go away, and we ran out of time. DeSoto had to go back home. We actually had one game where it rained a bunch here and in Dallas, and we flipped it, so they came down here and played that night. So we didn't have to lose those games. But outside of that, it's the numerous practices. When it rained this spring, we could get out there and get on it. Huge game changer. Gave us a competitive advantage for sure. And hopefully, we've got Eddie's 50 years old. He tells me all the time this is going to extend his career because of the maintenance on the field, obviously the financial costs on our end, but it's been a huge game changer. I didn't put a picture of this, but one thing I just want to say personally, as someone who goes, we have 74 coaches and teachers doing the DOI stuff. I appreciate Mary Lou and HR and curriculum and everybody for doing that. That really gives us a lot of flexibility. It gives me a lot of flexibility in hiring good coaches. So I appreciate y'all's willingness to jump in that district of innovation. It's been a huge game changer and very important for us as we continue to try to recruit and get new coaches here. Do things a little bit differently this year. I kind of wanted to talk about athletics as a whole. These are our core values: competition, integrity, service. These are the things we look for when we hire new coaches. These are things that we teach, try to model, things that we believe in. Competition, we want to compete every day, continuous improvement. We want coaches who strive to be better men, better women, better fathers, mothers, all those things. And we want to instill that in our student athletes. We want them to be better students, better athletes, obviously, but better sons, better daughters, better community members, all of those things. Integrity. Obviously, we want to compete with class. We want to represent Midway ISD, Midway High School, this community very well. Always, we want y'all to be proud of what we put out on the field and the people and students we produce. Some of our goals every year is we don't want sportsmanlike conduct penalties. We don't want yellow cards, red cards, texts, things like that. Athletics is emotional. Those things tend to happen at times, but the goal is none of those, coaches or our players. And we've done a decent job, but it is an emotional sport. Win or lose, at the end of the day, we want to do it right way and represent everybody. Service, this is something that I've been very high on for the last several years. I ask all of our programs to do something, serve the community in some capacity. We've had teams do a variety of different things, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But I believe success of the whole person is our goal. Producing solid citizens, education through athletics is vitally important to what we're trying to do. A quick story. This was a couple years ago. We finished a baseball game. We get kicked out of the playoffs about the 3rd round against Marcus. And we're walking out, and it's the end of the season. Kids are crying, upset. Coaches are crying, upset. Parents, this is the last time they're going to see them play. And a kid walks up, and he's kind of behind me, and he gets Coach Kornblum and says, Coach, I didn't get to play a whole lot this year. So immediately, I think, God, this is not a good time to have this conversation. So I kind of stick around. But immediately what he said was, this is the most fun I've ever had in my life. And I appreciate everything you've done for me. And this is a kid that did not play very much. He was a manager as a junior, and as a senior, they gave him a jersey. And here he is telling the coach after the end of the season what a great time he had and how much value it added to his life. And I thought that was extremely important and reflective of the program that our baseball coaches run. And I think that's vitally important that we continue to do those things. Competition, obviously we competed in one of the toughest leagues in the state of Texas, if not the country. But we managed a few highlights. Cross country, Reeve Tarter, who's a junior force, ran in the state cross country meet. Volleyball went 2 rounds, lost to a regional semifinalist in the 2nd round. Tennis won district for the 20th consecutive year, I believe. Team tennis, they went to the regional semifinals. And individual tennis, Jack Lutz, Jack Lewis were state alternates, got 3rd place in the regional tournament. Swim, Coach Marlin's swim team, they had 24 regional qualifiers, which is the most we've ever had. Both boys and girls won district. Girls soccer made the playoffs. Track, we had multiple kids make the area meet, and 3 in the regional. And again, you think football's tough, basketball's tough, you should come see it in track. It's unbelievable. Baseball went 2 rounds, ended up losing to a regional finalist in a very close series. Softball went 4 rounds. Boys golf, we had a boys golf member make the state. Braden Bear competed at state for the 2nd year in a row. Again, I'm telling you, it's the toughest league. Both basketball state champions came out of our league, state semifinalists, softball state finalists, multiple golf teams competed at the state tournament out of our league. Softball went to the state tournament out of our league. So very tough. We're moving south next year, back to kind of central Texas. We're very grateful for that. A lot of lobbying and letter writing and phone calls. So we're going back to that. Again, though, competition not just on the field. School board matters, obviously. Varsity sports, we want to win, but it's a little bit more than that. These are our passing rates. Every 6 weeks, we take and compare how we do to students that aren't involved in athletics. So you can see our passing rates are 95% on average for the 6 weeks. Middle school is 96. Comparing that to kids that aren't involved in athletics, it's significantly different. We all know that kids involved, plugged in, are more successful academically. This is just proof of that. Participation, we have about 900 kids, which is just over a third in high school participate in some form of athletics. Then 625, so close to half at the middle school. We had 52 seniors that were academic all-state, and then we had 30 seniors that are going to go on and play at the next level. So very, very, very proud of those kids. Integrity, that's one of our other pillars. You know, when we go to hire coaches, we look for coaches that are going to model those 3 things: competition, integrity, and service. That's part of the interview process, part of the vetting process. The coaches that we have on staff that we've had working with us for 15, 20 years, we're pushing them. Some are a little more reluctant than others, but we want them to do those community service projects. Take time out of their season to devote to classroom learning, to talk about leadership and integrity and developing leaders and overcoming adversity and all of those things, life skills that are taught through athletics. So here's a list of the leaders of our programs. We got a couple of changes. Coach Bowles finally retired. He's been at it for a long time and decided to check in this year. So cross country, we'll have a replacement. John Capron will be our track coach. He was the track coach, or cross country coach at Baylor for several years. Very excited about him. He will also be our boys track coach. Girls golf, Reagan Barron got out of coaching and went to a different district to teach only. She has some young children. Bill Sharp, our former girls soccer coach, will take that. I think he's got a good temperament for golf. He knows the game. He's a very good player of the game. And I think he will do very well there. Which opened up girls soccer. We hired Rodrigo Barrientos from China Spring. He's widely popular and well known in this area from club soccer. He works for the Texans, I believe. He's at China Spring at Conley for a short time. He was actually the boys and girls coach at China Spring, and they had a very successful year for them. So, and then girls track, you may remember Polly Clements. Randy Clements was the O-line coach at Baylor under Bryles. Polly taught PE. She was a very popular teacher here. Her daughter ran and ended up running at SFA, graduated Midway. She's coming back and will be our girls track coach. So very, very excited about them. Again, we push these people to think outside the box and spend a lot of time off the practice court, off the fields, in the classroom, doing those life lessons and developing leaders on the team and future leaders of this community. So.
Are we retaining Coach Bowles for the graduation ceremony?
That's out of my scope. We are retaining him for Panther Stadium in Friday Night Football and some of our announcing. As far as graduation, that's going to be up to Allison to sell him on that. So, service projects. Again, we talked about we've done everything. We've done Habitat for Humanity. We've done food drives, can drives. We've done lake cleanups. Ironman, volunteered at Ironman. Done a lot of different things. A couple of them that I'm really proud of that we've done. Our girls basketball team this year, we had a new coach, Coach Winbush. She came in and partnered with Hewitt Elementary, did some mentoring and tutoring with those young kids at Hewitt. They also went out and supported them in their summer or their athletic participation. So they went not only during the school day, but outside of the school day. Very proud of that. I think she's starting here in a couple of weeks. She's going to go to one of the local nursing homes, and she's going to run the bingo. The kids are going to run bingo for that group. So those are some of the things that our coaches are doing. Baseball ran a Challenger League game on a Saturday. Probably one of the most fun events I've ever been to. It was very impactful in my opinion, very meaningful. Gave those kids a whole fresh perspective, our kids, and that's something that I hope that we continue to grow. We had athletes and coaches do Special Olympics, unified track, a variety of those things, and those are things that I hope we continue to grow. Summer camps, I think that's a service that we perform. It's a low-cost camp for kids. We had nearly 1,300 kids right now this month of June come and participate. You know, some of those are counted twice because they do multiple camps, but 1,300 kids. Strength and conditioning, we have about 500 kids that are doing that right now. So our numbers are very healthy. At the lowest level, it's babysitting, but it's a great introduction for those kids to try different sports. My kid, I can tell you, is going to be a freshman. We know nothing about tennis. Knew nothing about tennis. She went to a tennis camp. She went to basketball camp, all those things, fell in love with tennis. So now she's a tennis player, all because of a summer camp. So yeah, I think it's a great way to introduce sports in this community to very young kids. We take kindergartners in some sports, first graders in some sports, all the way up to incoming ninth graders. So youth programs, we continue to work with Midway Leadership, our Midway Premier Leadership, the Midway Premier League. We've had about 320 kids play football this year. We play on Saturdays at Rice Field. It's a low-cost competitive league. We do the same with basketball this year. We were able to start up basketball again. We had 250 kids play basketball on Saturdays at the middle school. Again, those are low-cost opportunities for kids to get involved in sports, and I think that's important, obviously.
With the River Valley now, you have another field out there. You gotta
it's possible.
try to grow those programs.
Possible. We're going to. I mean, that's one of those things. We're going to grow it and let it get as big as it can get. I think I've talked about it before. I love Woodway and what they've done. Woodway family. When Cameron played in it, you know, one thing they practice, and they stopped playing, and just stopped practicing and just started playing games. We wanted something a little different. We don't want it to be AAU. We don't want it to be club or select, but we want them to have a continual practice throughout the season, and that's kind of why we implemented it. And you know, some of the stuff gets expensive. You know, right? Yeah. I mean, who's 2 or 3 years? Absolutely. So we grabbed a big piece of the market when we started it, and we've been able to hold on to it. So I'm excited about that. And there's a little wear and tear that comes with our facilities, but nothing that's not manageable. So hosted events, again, I put this under service. We serve the teams and the kids that we host, and that's important that we're good hosts and provide a good opportunity, a good playing field for them to come and you know, try to advance in the playoffs. But I think that's a big service for our community. We hosted, I think, 7 football games, 9 basketball games, the 8 baseball and softball games, 3 soccer games. And we host 3 very large track meets. I mean, very, very large. We'll have 10,000 people coming on a weekend for these track meets. So I think it spurs the economy on Hewitt Drive, particularly and within our attendance zones. So I think that's a service that we provide. Booster clubs, we've got a ton of parents that volunteer. Jeff Abshire, Christy Acosta are in our leadership roles. We had over $400,000 in gross revenue this year. They're healthy, and it enables us to provide a lot of things that we couldn't otherwise to bolster up those programs. So nice uniforms, food, meals, travel, some things that aren't in the annual budget because we want to take a charter bus somewhere or we need to turn over the uniforms a little more quickly. And then in scholarships, we gave away or awarded $21,000 in scholarships. So significant amount of that's from the Booster Club. Some of it's from community partners, from our annual physical days, different things. But we were able to award $21,000 in scholarships, and I think that's huge. So, some goals for me and moving forward for our athletic department. You know, obviously we want to be drivers of the economy where we can and be good stewards of that and partners with the economy. That's why we host so many things. That's always going to be a goal of mine. Investing in youth sports, always going to be a goal of mine. And then also being inclusive with our facilities. That's something I thought when I came on board, that was kind of a directive I'd been given. This year we had, after prom in the MAC, the Stephanies, Miss Arnett and Miss Gross showed up, and there was a scheduling snafu with the slick, and hey, let's move it to the MAC. No problem. It was a good venue. I think it worked out pretty well. Maybe some AC issues here and there, but for the most part went pretty well. So those are always going to be steady, constant goals for me. Some specific ones: multi-sport participation. That's a big focus for us. If kids can play multiple sports, we want them to play multiple sports. I think as the demographer was talking about, kids that transfer out, I think that's one of the reasons. They want to be able to play multiple sports. Well, if you can play multiple sports here, we want to make sure you're afforded that opportunity. So a couple of things that we did this year. Darrell Almhofer, Dr. Knutson put together a little 6th grade kind of incoming preview for incoming 7th graders. We participated in that in the first time. Coach Anderson, our football coach, went up and talked about multi-sport participation and encouraging that. Specifically asked him to do that because I wanted the community and those kids to hear that from the head football coach, that he wants you to play baseball, he wants you to play softball and volleyball. I thought that was important to hear his voice from that perspective. We also had an incoming freshman meeting for the first time this year and had a great turnout. So those parents and kids that were going from 8th grade to 9th grade, we had a meeting in May. Great turnout. Part of it was to introduce themselves to, or introduce to the head coaches of those sports that they want to play. But it's also, we talked about rules and procedures in playing multiple sports. That's a big focus, and we use that platform to talk about that. Social media, I think we've done a really good job here lately with that. Jennifer Worthen's a lady in the office. She handles all of our multimedia accounts. And it's been great not only to disseminate information and show off our kids, but it's been a good platform for parents to reach out and ask us questions. So we've done that. My goal next year is try to get that little check by all of our little social media names. I don't know what you win when you get that check, but I want to do that. Middle school transition, obviously that's going to be huge for everybody. For us, one thing we did in 7th grade, and we may have talked about this, but we went ahead and split athletics for those 7th graders this year. So we had a red team, which was Midway Middle, and a blue team, which was River Valley. So the football kids that will be at River Valley as 8th graders played together, trained together, and the current middle school that will remain in middle school did the same there. I thought that was important for development. One, you need to make sure you have a quarterback and a setter at each school for 8th grade, but also gave those kids familiar faces, a team, so when they show up and split in 8th grade, you've kind of got your teammates that you've been playing with. On the impactful side of that, for us in athletics, we've been running 4 teams in every grade level. Well, that's a lot of work, a lot of demanding time on those coaches. They're coaching double duty, essentially. We'll go back to having 2 teams in each grade level. When you put 4 teams on a court during practice, that's limited reps, limited practice time for each individual kid. So hopefully our development and number of reps will increase dramatically. Having 6th grade on those campuses will be huge for pre-athletics. We've had pre-athletics at both campuses for several years, but having them with the middle school coaches and middle school facilities and dressing out and locker rooms will be a big adjustment for some of them. It'll be a great introduction to middle school athletics and midway athletics. So long-range planning, we run a lot of traffic through our facilities, so having a good plan, working with Mr. Brooks on when things are coming new, when do we need to resurface our track or our tennis courts, resurface the football field. So that's kind of an ongoing goal and plan. It's a living document that I use. Our biggest needs, obviously, locker rooms that have come up a little bit. I'm going to have to keep Buddy off this mic because he's making that dream more and more distant. But that's a big need. We still have kids sharing lockers. We have antiquated facilities for our coaches and our kids. A 3rd gym is on the list. And then obviously we'd love to have a swimming pool. I understand the reality of that, but that is still a need for us. One thing that we did, we always go through evaluations with our coaches and our programs. One thing we did this year was we added student surveys, anonymous student surveys for our seniors. I thought that was very impactful in the sense that it gave them a voice. They're the ones that we're serving, we're coaching, they're in our facilities, giving them a voice. And it's not just on, hey, did you like your coach? It's a good document. I'm pretty pleased with it. It talks about facilities. It talks about the coach. It talks about alcohol and drugs and hazing, vaping. Is that an issue? It asks about me. It asks about the athletic department. Those have been really enlightening. A lot of good things, and it validated a lot of things we have done and continue to do, but it also has given us some things to look at and work on. So I've been appreciative of that. I think that's been a good resource and a good tool for us. We'll look to kind of refine that as we go. Recruiting and retaining quality educators. Again, the DOI thing has been immensely helpful for us, trying to find coaches, recruiting coaches. As the demographer said, teachers are leaving, not getting in. This is going to be a harder and harder deal for us to find teacher and coaches, so that's a great tool to get us able to bring in new people to the profession. For me, one of my goals, I think that I have to have an increased responsibility, making sure that those people are being successful, particularly those that did not have an educational background, making sure they're successful in the classroom and successful getting their teacher certification, turning in their grades, turning in all those things. So we're not pushing them out of the field as well. So I think that's a personal responsibility for me that I have to do better at, put more energy into. And then at the end, I just want to say thanks. I love this job. I love what we do, what we produce. I'm just grateful y'all give me the opportunity to continue to do it. It's a lot of fun. It's the most rewarding job I think you can imagine to have. And I appreciate your support. I appreciate the resources you afford us and the level of excellence y'all demand. So thank y'all.
I want to offer a couple of quick shout outs to you and your staff. It was shortly after spring COVID when our baseball team lost its entire baseball season. Coach, I had an opportunity to see a email or letter that Coach Kornblum sent out to his parents, and it was a 3 Kleenexer. I mean, it was incredibly encouraging, inspirational, embodying everything you just talked about. And then just a couple of months ago, my husband and I were out at the baseball stadium. I think we had the new turf down, and we were there to watch the Waco Challenger Little League, which is baseball for our special ed youth in our community. And our Midway baseball boys were out there.
It was unbelievable.
Assisting the players so that they could participate, and gave up their Saturday to do something for other kids. And so, and I know that's reflective of other programs. My examples are from baseball, but
I
just
appreciate
wanted
that.
to recognize that.
Eddie does a tremendous job. Those that know Eddie, and that was probably one of the best events I'd been a part of in a long time.
And it shows.
And maybe it's a coincidence or not. We had not been struggling with baseball, but we weren't scoring a lot of runs. We had lost a ton of 1-run games. And then after that, it was just kind of a reset for them. And they went on a nice little run and won a bunch of games and started hitting the ball a lot better. Maybe a coincidence, but I think that stuff matters. So.
Well, it shows.
Yeah, thanks.
Brad, I want to say something too, and I know you and I talked about this back in the fall, but I want to say it publicly here as well, that the Saturday morning when our marching band was loading the trailer to drive to area, their biggest marching competition of the year, and those kids were blown away that Coach Anderson and football players showed up that morning after playing a game the night before, and I don't know who it was we played, but I'm sure we got beat pretty bad. Because it was DeSoto or somebody, and those kids showed up to help load the trailer, to help support the band when they were leaving.
I appreciate
I know you and I talked about it right when that happened, but I wanted to say that publicly too.
I appreciate that. We've got a great group of head coaches. We really do. Coach McDade's doing the same thing.
And I want you to know, and him too, I was on a bus to Disney and back with the band a few weeks ago, and some of those kids were still talking about
awesome.
that. The fact that how cool it was that they've never seen that before.
That's awesome.
So,
I appreciate
I guess
that.
the band will work a little harder for the football team this year as a result, but thank you. And
Well, I
thank Coach
appreciate it.
Anderson
If you
for
get
that.
beat by 40, you better start doing some other stuff.
No.
Huh?
We're gonna have to.
So, thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Brad. All right, Daryl.
He's coming. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time this evening, and I appreciate all that you do for us. Honestly, I have knee surgery in the morning, and I have about 17 minutes before I can't eat anymore. So I guarantee I will go quick, but I don't want to leave anything out. You have in your packets the longer version of things, and it's right here. Great. Basically, what Buddy and Brad said, except with fine arts. We are doing some great things, and I appreciate both of them. Told you to be quick. No, I appreciate them so much because we work together and we work things out. And the first question that we come up with is how does it affect the student? How does this help the student? And it's not about how does this help me or how does this help my directors. It's about what's up for the kids. And so thank you both for all that you do. Just to throw this out, we still continue to work with our cross correlations between fine arts and academics. That's very important to us. All of our teachers are about that. We do lots of neat things. There's a little asterisk by one that I wanted to share. Dance 6 through 12 starting next fall. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank everybody who helped us make this happen. I've been asking for dance for many years. In addition to drill team, there's a difference. Dance is a fine art. Drill team is more of an athletic PE event with an artistic component. And now we're going to have dance 6 through 12. We'll get there. It's going to take some time. Already our middle school dance is 5 of 6 periods, maybe 6 of 6 by the end of today. So that's exciting. Also theater 7 through 12. We've had so many kids sign up for theater that we may be visiting with our new HR person and then board again about what do we do to solve, where do we put kids. We have about 150% of the middle school, both middle schools signed up for fine arts because they can take 2 fine arts electives. which is great. Some of the great things that we did that I'm super proud of, just a couple of quick pictures. Again, you can read in your packets, but NAM, and that's your award, and a picture of what I thought was probably the finest women's treble choir concert I've ever had the pleasure of crying at, and that's my head in the bottom left. It's just bawling my eyes out. They were phenomenal. They represented Midway beyond reproach. They were just incredible. Cinderella was a great success. We have all state students in all aspects of our fine arts that do a great job. I do want to share that we did not use a live orchestra this year because of COVID. As the uptick happened in November, we did not want to put kids in the pit for an extended period of time overnight. We made a little bit of money on it. You can see all those financials. And again, any of these topics, if you want to talk to me, call me. I'll talk about fine arts for days. I really will. I promise. Some of the things we do, we use our spaces a lot. Dr. K pointed out today, hey, you can't really see what that picture is in the bottom, but you can see that it's the month of May, and it's something every single night. And that's what we do. We use our spaces, we use our PAC, we use our band halls, we use all of our performing arts areas. And that's a picture from a dance recital that we had just a couple of weekends ago where, they're on point and they're doing a great job, and the lighting was great. Yes, and Colin was, Mr. Witt was with our video team there, and it was really fun. But I wanted to share that as we fill that calendar up, we went and I went and said, hey, I kind of need some help. And again, through the graciousness of the admin team and the school board, we will have a fine arts facilities manager starting next fall, which will make my day so much easier. I can actually work on curriculum and budget and things and not be up there at the PAC opening up for an assembly and those kind of things. We were able to steal A.J. Danforth from North McKinney High School. He's a one-act play and theater director there, and he wants to come down and just be a PAC manager, so that's great. I want to share a story with you, and it has a little bit of a backstory. There's a composer named John Mackey, who is probably the most prolific band composer on the planet right now. Every Texas band plays his music, period, for UIL, for everything. And it just so happened that all three of our concert bands this year were playing a John Mackey tune. And out of a coincidence, John Mackey was going to be in Waco at Baylor doing it. And Pam Hyatt said, hey, is there any way we can get John Mackey's expensive? He is the most, and he's very, 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 very way up there. So, hey, I think we've got ESSER money we can use, maybe pull this off. And we worked out the paperwork with Mr. Brooks, and away we go. And we've got John Mackey in for a clinic with three of our high school bands. So in that backstory. So the band's playing. This is the second band, and it's a short little video. I don't know if it'll play, but this is taken. Share his Facebook post. I won't read all of it because he does drop a couple of bad words. But if you want to, you can look at it and see yourself. Here's a great story about the humanity of band, and this is from Mr. Mackey's Facebook. I spent the afternoon at Midway High School in Waco working on my music with three of their bands, and three is in all caps. It was a great marathon session. The highlight was hearing Undertow played flawlessly by the second band. Undertow is a very hard tune, by the way. The tambourine part of that piece is no joke, and the player was nailing it. I love watching people play that part. I wrote it to be theatrical and fun to watch. So I look back there, and the kid is going to town, again, all caps, on the part. And it's like the best rock concert. Then I notice another student right behind the tambourine player, and he seems to be whispering things sometimes. And then I realize the other student is conducting along with the director. Well, he's maybe making sounds or something to be clear where the conductor is, and then I look at the tambourine player, and it all makes sense. The player is blind. One of the most astonishing experiences was seeing a united sound rehearsal with kids mentoring kids with special needs so that everyone could experience what it's like to be a part of an ensemble. Today was the first time, for John Mackey to say, today was the first time, I'm chilled now. Today was the first time that I've witnessed that peer mentorship totally generated by the actions of the students. And he goes on to talk about how great Mr. Oleg Pittman is, and it's blankety blank and blankety blank. He finishes in the sense of empathy that his friend has, offering to help when that assistant could clearly have been playing a challenging part on his own instead. And he actually says, God, I love band. This is indicative of all of our fine arts programs. Our teachers, our staff, our students have developed this incredible sense of understanding and empathy for each other. And I really think that it's because you allow me to hire staff and bring in the right people to make our programs great. So again, I wanted to thank you for all that you do for us. If you have any questions about anything at all, I'll be happy to answer. I think that's my, and that's a video. And then, I could talk a little bit. Do I got time? 1 minute? Okay. A couple of quick pictures here. The picture up there is the streaming station that we were able to purchase with ESSER funds. We spent a lot of money on some incredible cameras, and that's our YouTube page where we are quickly building where parents and grandparents and great-grandparents and people from out of the country can watch. And then our other focus for our future, that's a kindergarten program at the PAC. And that's South Bosque. They had about 850 parents at a kindergarten program. That's why we're at the PAC. That's why I'm so appreciative that we have support coming from the board and the administration to get PAC help. That's why I appreciate being able to use bond money to get the PAC renovated and get the lights and sound and the rigging so that it'll be safe for the next 30 years. Now that's it.
All right, Darryl, you said any questions about anything?
I am ready, sir.
What's happening with the knee tomorrow?
Meniscus, ACL, and maybe the whatever the outside one is. I tore all four.
Good luck with that.
And so I've been in this nasty brace, and they finally scheduled surgery. So I'm like, yay! And then it's going to be a long recovery, but I do appreciate that.
Well, kudos to you for doing what I would have thought would be the impossible, and that is to find someone to step into Tammy Benton's shoes.
Oh, we have hired a fantastic staff.
Yes, you have. And new dance drill team director, and again, on the dance thing, we've said for a long time, extracurriculars is one of those dimensions of life here that separate the haves from the have-nots. And as any dance parent can tell you, to do dance outside of school for a lot of families is just unreachable. So to be able to offer that through the public schools.
And that's one of our goals is we will, and I say this with all sincerity, we will get to the point where we will provide that service and that dance component to anybody who wants it.
Team at the high school.
Oh yeah,
and
yes, it'll build a great drill team,
Yeah.
and it'll build this, and it'll build better color guard, and it'll build better everything.
Yes.
But it will get kids involved in the arts that normally would have said, I'll take art and I'll be done.
Yeah, can't do it.
And so again, that's because of the support.
Well, bravo.
Well, thank you. And with that, I am going to slip out and run and get a burger.
That's great. All right, that brings us to the consent agenda, folks. We have minutes from our May regular meeting and our special called meeting, a large number of early graduation requests, our interlocal agreement with both City of Hewitt and City of Woodway, the budget amendment that Wesley talked about, our food service management bid matter, the additional playground equipment that George and Buddy both talked about. Any board member wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Watts,
Second.
second by Ms. Fick. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. The Tess. Do we need to go into closed session for personnel?
Good answer.
She's gonna be good.
Yes. Well started.
Well started. Do we need to, or are you still operating under your authority, so we don't
It's
need to
just for
act
your
on-
information.
Gotcha.
The
Very
professional
good.
recommendation, just noting we did have one that I accepted back, rescinded the resignation, and the rest are new hires.
All right, and we need to vote on Mr. Tullis's motion that I seconded, that we appoint Mr. Green to be the delegate to the TASB Assembly, don't we?
Gotta stick with tradition.
It's the rite of passage for the newest board member.
Not unexpected.
In all
Such a little
seriousness, I think we actually have to take board action to
We
do
do.
that, don't we?
And
So,
and an alternate,
and an alternate. Oh, we do need an alternate, don't we?
just in case.
Just in case.
So moved.
Well, who's the alternate?
Yeah, okay, for Jonathan.
Oh, to appointing?
Yeah, we're gonna do that one first, right?
All right, it'd be, sure. Motion by Mr. Tullis, is there a second to that motion? Second by Mr. Alford. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Excellent. Congratulations, Jonathan. We know you will, do well with it. Rite of
It's not that
passage.
hard, you can do it.
Yeah.
No, it's neat.
Actually, Colin would say, and I know I had this experience too, it's a good learning experience.
It's interesting, yeah, to hear what other districts are thinking and doing.
Yeah.
I did it the second year in a row voluntarily. It's pretty fascinating.
All right.
And I'll say, since the person before me was the alternate when I was last year, I'm happy to volunteer to be the alternate for this year, if it's helpful.
And I move that we make Mr. Witt the alternate.
Yes. Second?
Second by Ms. Vick. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Colin. That motion carries. What else? We're out of agenda items.
All right.
Who had 9 o'clock on the over and under?
What I told my wife. Told her 9
All
o'clock.
right, thank y'all. We are adjourned.